Welcome to the Predictive Playbook. I'm your host, John Ryan, and we have a special guest in the house today. And no, it's not Ira Silver because he's on every day, but he has a friend that works at Fox Philly. Eytan Shander is with us today. If you don't know who he is, he's a local Philadelphia national radio host for more than a decade, currently on Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler in Philadelphia, and can be heard nationally on SB Nation Radio. So, welcome to the show, Eytan. I'm really psyched that you're here. It's a perfect timing for the NFL draft. And once you tell us a little bit about yourself and background, I'm just dying to know who you think the Eagles will take in the first round.
Well, that's huge. And first off, I appreciate the invite, and it's great to be on with you guys. I know that there is a lot of anticipation right now just about what the Eagles will do. And I'm here in Philly and kind of cover this team as well as the other sports going on, kind of all different angles. We do a TV show. We do a show on phillyvoice.com and also on Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. And I think from either a betting standpoint or just an expectation standpoint, the Eagles moving out of the 6th spot and dropping to 12 is, I think, a pretty good, clear-cut indication, at the very least, of narrowing it down, if not identifying 2, if not 3 spots that they can go. I mean, first off, they had a shot at Kyle Pitts. They don't draft tight ends in the first round. Linebackers, they're not going to draft. They haven't drafted a guy like that, I think, in the 70s. So things don't snap all of a sudden. It's not that level of a trend that automatically snaps out of nowhere. You get a huge inkling of it. And again, moving out of 6, that's one part of it. So now I think we look at the 2 real positions of need on the outside, and then you go with trends. And the trend is the trench. But as far as the outside, that's where the sexy pick is, right? That's where J.C. Horn is going to most likely be available. And I think from what I hear from the team, or just people that are in the know, they like Horn even better than Surtain. If both were on the board, they would take Horn. And we also have to see what happens with the wide receiver position, because as much as I know we'll talk about Jalen Hurts in a second, as much as the quarterback spot may be up for grabs, or at least there are question marks surrounding the quarterback, there still are really big needs, not just one needs at the wide receiver position. And who knows who slips. I don't think it's going to be Smith down there, but it could be. And then all of a sudden that changes things. And then lastly, as far as trends are concerned, you're talking about nearly 3/4 of the time, if maybe not more, based on what the exact number is, over the last 20 plus drafts, where they've taken in the first round with the opportunity, a guy on the trench, a guy who is playing offense or defense right there in the middle. So is that really a bad thing if you take Slater at the 12th spot? Is that really a bad thing if you're getting a guy in Kwity Paye who's played football and at a high level at number 2? I don't think so, but I think those are now the 3 areas where you lock in your focus to where every other position is out.
It's interesting because there's a prop bet, number of offensive players taken in the first round, and MGM as of yesterday had 18.5. Okay. And I'm leaning pretty darn heavy on the under. But the Eagles are one of those teams that actually on my chart could, surprise and take an offensive player. But I would think it would be, you would know better than anybody, but I was leaning towards like the Eagles taking a cornerback perhaps.
Yeah, I think Horn is going to be there, and I think they are enamored with him. But I think what's happened is, even with somebody on the board that they've liked, they've moved away from their draft board. And this is, I think, something that maybe is an improbability factor. I don't know if it's necessarily like a team's diet before a game, but I do think that there's an improbability factor of Howie Roseman. We have to factor in that this guy doesn't know a lot of times what to do if plan A, B, and C are off the board. And plan D could still be there. And yet we find out, 2 years later, oh, man, they didn't even go with a plan. They just scrapped everything and said, let's just go with this guy that nobody's heard of or nobody was willing to think that they would take at that spot.
Yeah, that kind of blew my mind. That just infuriates the Eagle fan base, which doesn't need much to get infuriated.
Oh.
But I remember when Brett Brown was with the Sixers, I had the privilege of meeting him, and they actually made offers on every single pick. So whoever that team was that had that pick in the first round, they tried to do something on every single one. So in direct contrast to, Howie, that, that probably was better off not said than
Yeah.
anything else. But one last question before we go to the hockey card here, because that is Ira's expertise, believe me. Jalen Rager, I thought that was a tremendous pick last year, and whether it was he didn't get enough reps. It looked at one point like he was starting to get more and more snaps, and becoming that number one potential wide receiver. Where do you think he stands now?
I think the problem with what happened last year is twofold, especially for a guy like Rager. And I think this is a great example of a macro situation going on with the Phillies while we lose Phillies with the Eagles, while we use this micro example in Rager. The team was such a mess offensively where Carson Wentz had zero rhythm more times than not with wide receivers. COVID, all the issues that they had coming into the season, you could factor it. Carson Wentz just wasn't that good. Carson Wentz was holding on to the ball. The offensive line was culpable as well, but it was a major issue just to get a good read on guys, especially Rager, as you take him in the first round, the Justin Jefferson stuff aside. And then the problem also is now you have a second look at Rager with Jalen Hurts. And when you start to figure out what he could be with Hurts, this is the bigger issue that you step into. That stuff's gone. Doug Peterson's gone. The offense is gone. You still have same guys intact, but the system, Nick Sirianni and whatever he's running here, and nobody knows because we haven't seen it yet. We've seen Frank Reich and him run it under Frank Reich, but we don't know what Sirianni looks like on the field until we see it. So that's where it's so difficult. Here's what I'd say. The skill set is there where I believe that Rager can be used as a guy if you people want to reduce it as a gadget, or if people want to maybe use more of a broader term and just say a guy you can move around. I think they're going to be creative with Jalen Rager. I think he's going to be what Nelson Aguilar could have been if used properly here. Not somebody who can just go down the field, but put the ball in his hands, reverse, just see what happens. Quick outs, move him around on the line of scrimmage. I think that's what you'll see with Jalen Rager first and foremost. Everything else is really difficult to predict.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the slot would be perfect for him because it's a matchup nightmare on a linebacker to try to cover him. And I always remember Nelson as the guy in my database, at least, that led the NFL the last year he was here in yards of separation from the defender, but he was never thrown to.
Hell of a stat, too.
So, yeah.
Well,
I mean, and then his hands were questionable.
You see it now in Vegas. I mean, he's getting the ball, and he got the ball in Vegas last year, put up great numbers. So you got to be that can throw in the ball.
You're right. When he was in Philly, the story was he had no hands. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing where narratives get created, right? Gabe Kapler didn't know what the hell he's doing. He comes back and he wins a couple games here, knowing what he's doing with a lineup that's worse than what he left. So Phil, we build narratives, I think, because we're too busy listening to morning sports talk radio fill 4 hours of phone calls. That's what happens here.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. So let's move on to the hockey card here. And Ira, do you want to lead us off here with a game that you have targeted as a possibility of going to the window?
Yeah, we'll say one thing before we get into the hockey card. This is just my comparison, who I think Jalen Rager could be, since he's got so much skill and he's got a lot of speed. I think he can be very modeled after what Antonio Brown did in the NFL. Kind of the same body type, same kind of receiver position skill set. And I think, same size, really. I really think that Rager could be an Antonio Brown type of player if he is used properly and he has someone who can actually get him the ball. And we talked about this, Eytan, last time when we got on live together. Carson Wentz just wasn't the guy. And I understand the offensive line had a lot of issues, but at the end of the day, Carson Wentz just wasn't the answer. He looked scared. He looked like he was intimidated. His timing was off. I like Hurts. I think he could have a really big career. They just need to give him the opportunity and the confidence there.
Yeah, which is
really
wild,
good,
right?
throwing the long ball and throwing it high in the air so that a guy like Rager could run underneath it. He could throw the ball as far as he wants. with a high arc, and Rager will track it down. Whereas Carson just seemed to throw bullets, 50-yard, lasers that could easily be defended. And I never understood why, with that incredible arm, why he just didn't loft one up there and, do what a lot of Hall of Fame quarterbacks have done before him. But my 2 cents.
Look,
we all know Tampa Bay is going to win the Super Bowl anyway. So,
is that where the futures money's on already?
Yeah, it is. Which probably means that they don't win it, actually.
There you go.
That certainly is a big red flag, contrarian indicator. But take us into the NHL now, Ira.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the game that I like as an underdog here. It's a late game. This is a game where I think you got to take advantage of the goalie matchup here in this game. You got Binnington starting for the Blues against Devin Dubnyk for the Avalanche. And while the Avalanche are fantastic, they're going to be front runners for the Stanley Cup. I think Dubnyk has a lot of issues without Grubauer in net for the Avalanche. They're very vulnerable, and you can exploit them defensively. And the St. Louis Blues they're the type of team that can really match up well against them. When Grubauer was in net, they were losing very close games to the Avalanche. So I think it's worth a look here. St. Louis plus 140 tonight at home. Home underdogs plus 140 against the Avalanche tonight, I think is a really good spot, really good look for them.
Eytan, you have anything to add to that?
As far as another play?
On that particular game, like agree, disagree, pass?
No, I wasn't looking at that game as far as what I had tonight, but I'll always take anything Ira has to offer across the board. And if he's riding hot in the NHL, then I'm definitely tailing. So by all means, and especially as he laid out with the goaltending situation, no, I'm totally on board.
I will preface this, Eytan. Last night, my big bet of the day, 2-unit play was on the Nashville Predators.
Yeah, you're due for a bounce back. Okay,
4-1, 10 minutes to go in the third. That's all I'll say.
It's a kick. It's just a kick, man.
I literally couldn't believe it. Oh. I could not believe it. My heart sank.
I apologize. I'm sorry, brother.
Bad. It's okay. I tweeted at Scott Van Pelt. Hopefully he puts on bad beats this week, so we'll see.
Nice.
And then what?
I was going to say, I don't know if you've looked at it tonight, but Flyers Rangers, I think there are a couple of different plays here. You're probably going to get a good return going over 6.5. And it's going to be, I think it's probably going to be a tough one, but it might be worth the value. If you're going to get plus money, if you're going to get anything, even if it's even money, to go over 6.5. And that's the big one there, because you can easily see this thing finish at 6 goals. But what I do like is, and I played this a little earlier, I went over 3.5 for the Rangers. I got plus 105 back on there. Total goals. That's where I think you're going to see goals. That's where you see the complete disparity, right? As far as how many goals, the goal differential between these two teams, not only overall, but really head to head. So I think you can take some big time advantage of that. Rangers score the first goal, Rangers first period money line, Rangers, going over the total in the first period, things like that, where the Flyers are so susceptible and so beatable. That's where I think it's easy to jump in and try and take advantage of some early money. I just don't see a scenario where the Flyers are up 2-1 after the first period against the Rangers team that knows them and beats them up this year as much as they do.
Yeah. The other day, I can't remember, I think it was Monday. Yeah, Monday or Tuesday. We had the Islanders as a bounce back spot against the Rangers. I thought it was just a cheap line for the Islanders. I thought it was a great spot. The Rangers had to regress a little bit, but I think it was a little bit of a wake up call, kicking the butt for the Rangers. And I actually do like that. I like over the team total 3.5 here. I'm seeing over 3.5 right now. What am I seeing? Over 3.5 minus 110. So the line's definitely in your favor. So
I'm looking at the ticket I played earlier, and this is only, I want to say this is about maybe 2 hours before we sat down, and over 3.5 Rangers total goals plus 105. Now, I guess it depends. I mean, I'm in, Philly here with Fox Bet, so I guess it depends on where in the book and all. But yeah, that's where I got it earlier. This was,
Yeah, no, Yeah, that's great. And Brian Elliott's going to be in goal. So I don't think it really matters who's in goal for Philly, Brian Elliott or Carter Hart. They both get a ton of goals this year. So I like that. I like that play. So I'm going to ride that one.
Hart's out too, like out, not with the team. So Lions playing, right? And they're not going to pull Elliott after. My point of it is that they're not going to pull Elliott if he's down like 3-0 early or 4-1 early, meaning that there might be a really good opportunity for that over to hit if it rains and pours. That's what I'm saying, right? If it rains and pours, keep an eye on that one. That over 6.5 might look pretty good at that point.
I can help you guys here with a little support. Flyers are 24-10 when they're facing an excellent power play team like the Rangers are, that are converting on 19% of their chances in matches played the last 2 seasons. And just this year, they're 7-1 to the over in a game that has a total of 6 or higher.
Is that right?
That bodes pretty well, I think.
Wow, 7-1 right now. You're getting. I'm seeing. I don't know what you're seeing, Eytan, out there, but I'm seeing over 6.5 even money right now.
Me too. Same exact.
I'll go right to it right here and give you the Vegas pulse. So Flyers here, 6 over at circa -130.
Yep.
6.5 under at Westgate is -120. So that would make 6.5 over there cheaper than at circa. South Point 6 over -120. And bet online for what it's worth is 6 over -130. But I always like Pinnacle. And we nicknamed it Penny for obvious reasons. But anyway, 6.5 under -117 at Penny. So that means
pretty good.
Yeah,
I have it at 125.
That would be probably where you might be able to get the best over bet, actually.
Man, 6.5. That's the thing. So I know it's such a way to get crushed right at the end. Not just that brutal beat that Ira suffered, but in general, where the puck hits the post, or so the puck line is always going to hit you in the stones at some point. But in this particular case, the way in which the Rangers have dominated the Flyers, it might be worth it just to stretch out, knowing if it's out of people's comfort zone. For me, I love the money line over the puck line in that regard. -1.5, I see it at +130. I mean, this should be a pretty convincing win. 2-goal, I would think, minimum win. I would be shocked if the Flyers won this game outright tonight. Shocked.
I have -1.5 +140.
Even better.
Yeah.
Even better. There's value. The point of it is that there's value on the risk.
I agree.
I agree with you too. Circa +152.
Wow.
Ooh, man. Got to move to Vegas, man. I'm telling
Penny's
you.
at +143.
Listen, PA, you know this. Look at that. 130 to 150.
Well, I got a crazy game I want to throw at you guys. At Eytan, I know you got to leave in a few minutes here. But here's an interesting game, and I think I'm gonna bet it down. I think I'm gonna bet it for half a unit. I like the Columbus Blue Jackets tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning. You're gonna get Curtis McElhinney in goal for the Lightning, who has goals against of, I don't know, almost 4, over 3.5. I'm sure. I don't have it in front of me. Against Elvis Merzlikins, who I love. He's the king. He's the king of the goalies, Elvis. So he's definitely very capable. His goals against are definitely up this year, but I think it's more of a byproduct of what Columbus is doing defensively. And Tampa Bay still without Stamkos. They're still without Kucherov, and with McElhinney in goal, I like the Blue Jackets +1.5, -110 on the puck line, and I also would throw a quarter unit on the Blue Jackets to win outright at +205.
See, I have him at 210 money line and then -125 on that puck line. Does that shift and juice change your opinion at all on the puck line?
You have -125?
Yep.
I hate laying -125. I would be okay with laying -120, but okay. I honestly think that the line would probably move back in your favor. I just think the public loves to bet this spot, especially with Tampa Bay being this elite team against the Blue Jackets, very lowly team. So I would wait. If you get -120, I would bet it. I'm going to bet it right now. Yeah.
Well, it's 120 at Circa Westgate. It's 114 at Pinnacle and Heritage.
Yeah, I'm 125 here. I'm looking at Fox Bet. And again, who knows? They could be doing something wonky on their own. But I was just curious on the number, if anybody else had it, what you would think of that. That's why I asked, Ira.
Anything
Yeah.
minus 120 or better, I'd play. Eytan, I know you got to go, but any game you love today, it could be any sport, NBA, MLB.
Yep. Just lay the points. I think until you get to about 9.5, I would lay the points with Milwaukee. I don't know if Joel Embiid's going to play tonight. And I know Ben Simmons isn't playing tonight. Tobias Harris isn't playing tonight. If you don't have Joel Embiid tonight, it doesn't matter if they found a way to clone Matisse Thybulle. They ain't shutting down Milwaukee to that point. Bucks are rested. They come off a loss, right? I mean, a home loss, right? So I think, Milwaukee tonight, I love the 8, but I would stretch it even if you want. Take a risk, push it up to 9. 9.5 is where I'd stop.
Yeah, I agree with that too. For what it's worth, I'm more of an NBA guy. And in Major League Baseball, if you have a minute, I'll show you one of our segments that Ira and I do is the betting system of the day for the NBA. So I put together this little slide every day, and it looks like this.
Nice.
So we have Phoenix, as you know, is in a gauntlet right now like I've never seen. They played Milwaukee, won in overtime. They won last night in Philly. No rest. They play Boston tonight. They get 2 days rest after that to play the Nets. Then they play the Knicks with no rest. And that ends the 5-game road trip, but they're lucky enough to go home and they have to face the Clippers and the Utah Jazz. So if the Suns survive with a winning record through this, it will be amazing. But this first half system, I like it because it's on back-to-back nights. We don't know how their legs are going to be. They're a 3-point shooting team. They're clearly going to want to get out to a big lead as soon as possible against Boston and then coast. And the parameters are pretty self-evident there of what is required. And that has hit 70% winning bets on a 32-14 record over the last 5 seasons.
Wow.
So taking Phoenix would be my best bet for this show.
I love it. I'm going to roll. Thank you.
Eytan,
yeah, no problem. Well, thank you for being on the show.
Eytan,
it's just been awesome.
Eytan, one more thing. I'm not sure why the line is this, and it looks very fishy to me, but over 5.5 in Boston, Bruins, Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, Bruins, I feel like have been playing to the under a lot more overall, even if it hasn't been stretchy. It just feels like overall they're an underplay. Buffalo has been tricky, right? Because they've shown signs. I think it's just it's almost like they're the NBA thing where you're taking on the Orlando Magic and you're like, all right, come on, let's just get through this game. Next thing you know, you don't cover the 12-point spread. But I do think in this case, I know it's 5.5, but I think I'd still roll under there and just defer to the Bruins kind of controlling the game at a 3-0, 4-1 push it type pace, but probably along those lines.
I think Buffalo is going to score 2 goals, and if that happens, the over is definitely going to.
Then go over. Yeah, because I think you have a good chance of that, especially a late goal with the Bruins.
I mean, you got the rookie Swayman in net for the Bruins. I mean, I know he's been very good. His goals against are under 2. He's only played in 5 games, I think. But Tokarski in net for Buffalo. I mean, the Bruins can score 6 goals. His goals against is over 3, and he had a really good game last game. I don't expect that to happen back to back, but it's not an official bet. I'm just saying look out for it. It's a little weird that it's being juiced to the under here at 5.5. I think it could be a good contrarian player.
Awesome.
Yeah, I like it.
Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Anytime,
really
guys.
You, man.
You got it. All right. See ya.
You bet. All right. Take care, guys.
All right, John.
Yeah. Well, we're still live. I didn't end it yet.
Yeah. So just to recap my bets, I got to jump as well. But just to recap, I would take a hard look at this Boston over 5.5. Probably will end up playing it. I like the Blue Jackets plus 1.5 up to minus 120 in that spot. And I like the St. Louis Blues plus 140 tonight against the Avalanche.
Yeah, and that's the play of the ones you picked that I like the most, the St. Louis Blues one. That has a ton of value.
Oh yeah, so much value. The line's going to drop 100%.
Yeah, it was another up for tomorrow's show. I won't waste time now, but I have a pretty extensive database, so I wanted to find out how long it's been since Chicago Blackhawks scored 4 goals in the third period, just so you could feel better and know
You're
that
really,
it probably has never happened.
you're really not being nice to me today, huh?
I mean, it then just to see. I mean, it's just such a crazy result. Like I wouldn't be able to sort it by minute, like the last 10 minutes, but I mean, when was the last time a hockey team lost leading 4-1 after the second period? I
Don't know.
mean, you texted me that, and I was actually worried about you and was hoping that you didn't have any whiskey bottles in the house. I really was concerned. I didn't know what to say. It was like, wow. I didn't even know how to console you.
Yeah, tough night. That's all I'll say. But I got to jump, John.
Yep. Okay.
Appreciate it as always, and we'll be back on tomorrow.
Yep. Regular time and about 4 o'clock. So for Ira and myself in the Predictive Playbook, may all the wins be yours.